All right, with these simple tools, we're going to create a coil pot. We've got the clay, water, board, and fork and knife. Got our setup right here. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to build the pot on this so that if I need to move it, I can pick the whole thing up rather than being like, for an example, I can move the whole piece like this. It's like it's on a plate rather than like trying to peel it up, and if it's wonky, it wobbles around. And so I'm going to build it on this. I'm going to start with the base. Rip off a chunk of clay, maybe like that size. I'm going to form it into a somewhat round piece. I want it to be round, form it a little bit. If I was in the studio, I would have a banding wheel and I could spin this, and I could mark the perfect circle and then trim the excess. But that's not the premise of this this playlist here. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to add a coil to it, so I'm dipping my finger in the water and just adding a little bit of water around the outside. That's where my first coil is going to be, so I'm going to try and soften that clay up a bit so it joins better. Set that aside right here so you can see it's not going anywhere. Move the water right there so you can still see it. All right, now I got this clay. I'm going to roll out a coil. I'm going to start by forming the clay by hand into a kind of sausage or a carrot or like a large parsnip or cucumber, zucchini, any one of those cucurbits. You can sit while you do this. You can stand while you do this. It's up to you. I'm going to slowly give some pressure, and I'm going to start rolling that coil out. Consistency is key when doing this, so it's really important to be consistent. Apply even pressure. You may find sometimes they're like, maybe you're not paying attention, and it starts doing this floppy thing. Can you see that? Flop, 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 flop. If that happens, it's totally normal. You can see it right there. You can see like that's pretty good. What you can do is instead of having your hands like this, set them opposite each other, fingertips on one, palm of the other. Give it a little twist, kind of like a churro stick. And then if you roll that gently, you'll see that it rolls better. It doesn't flop. And then you can try and be very consistent with the amount of pressure that you add. You can see that I'm working a section at a time. Back and forth, try to get it nice and even. Now I'm bringing this back up to the forefront. And I've got my coil. It's that long, that's cool. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to hold the coil up. I'm going to go around and squish the coil into the pot. Take a little water, make sure that the edges are going to connect to the seam. This is an important connection where the coils start and end. That's important. So it meets about there. I can rip this off. Just a drop of water, and I'm going to squish that and make sure that that's connected. That's one coil. You might be able to see there are some cracks and a little crack into the surface. I'm not sure how well the camera's picking it up. There you go. There's some cracks right there. See them? So it's a little drier than I might like. I'm just going to add a little bit of water to the rim to soften that up and make sure that the next coil will connect. So it's kind of forming this little muddy kind of thing. That is slipped. That's good. That helps the piece attach. So I've picked up the coil again. I'm going around. rotate. Little water for the connection. About there. Rip it, rip it, rip it. And then blend those surfaces together. So now I've got 2 coils, and you can continue this whole way, 1 coil at a time. That'd be fine. Or you could have the coil at this point like jump up and overlap and add coils that way. I'll do that next. But at this point, I have 2 coils. My finger can reach in there fairly easily still. So I'm going to take my thumb or fingers. Usually I use my thumb because that's the easiest for me using this motion. Might be better for the camera to show you. I'm going to take my finger like this, and I'm going to blend, supporting on the outside. I'm going to use this finger and blend down that seam. It'd be better if I work this way. So see how that's working? I'm just taking that clay and kind of pushing it down into the layers below. So you have a smooth surface. This is how I do it real speed. And this is also why it's okay to have your coils a little thicker, because as you do this, it thins it out a little bit. You're working that clay, you're making sure those coils are connected, and then I'm going to run my finger along the bottom to make sure that it's connected to the base. I just do like a little bit at a time. Like a little bit at a time, and then rotate, a little bit at a time, rotate, a little bit at a time, rotate. So inside, look at that. Blended nice and smooth. I'm going to do the same to the outside. And notice that I'm not using any water. I'm just using my fingers, and I'm able to move the clay a little better. If you use water, let's try it. What happens? It doesn't blend as easily. You can still see the coil doesn't blend as easily as nicely. It's slippery. It just doesn't work as well. So you can see there's a difference. So I don't recommend, and I don't like using it. There is a time for water. We'll get to that later. So I'm just going around, blending these together. I'm not worried about the texture or the surface right now. I'm worried about the structure, making sure it's connected. I'll also work my way around, feeling where it feels a little thinner there. I'm not going to put as much pressure. It feels a little thicker here. I can squeeze a little bit, and some of that clay will go up into the walls, giving me a little height, and importantly, making it a consistent thickness. So that's one section with coil pots. It's good to build. It can be good to build in sections. So there's one section, maybe another section's there, maybe another section's up here. So maybe this is like 4 or 5 sections. That's section number 1. We'll call this clip good. I'll continue in the next one.